Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome to my channel. So for those of you who are new, my name is Christiane, otherwise known here as IHeartAirbrush, and today we're going to talk about the most asked question that I get all the time, and that is, can you use Dinair airbrush makeup or water-based airbrush makeup in the Temptu systems? So today we're going to be going over the Temptu 2.0 system as well as the Temptu Air. So if you are interested in knowing if water-based, can go ahead and go through these systems and my recommendation for using water-based in the systems, then please keep on watching. So I get asked this question all the time, and that's pretty much, can you use water-based airbrush makeup, or more specifically, can you use Dinair in the Temptu systems? The answer, well, of course, yes, you can use water-based airbrush makeup or Dinair in the Temptu systems. That includes the Temptu 2.0 system as well as the Temptu Air. Now, your success at using water-based airbrush makeup in the Temptu 2.0 system will be very high, of course, with a few helpful tips, which I will share with you in a moment. But your success with the Temptu Air might not be as high. And I will go ahead and show you and explain to you why in a visual so that you can go ahead and see why success using the Temptu Air and water-based formulas like Dinair is really hard to reach. So that being said, let's go ahead and get on to the actual video. All right, so just a forewarning, you might hear some noise like screaming children in the background. Do not be alarmed, my children are absolutely fine. They are being watched by their father. So I'm gonna get on to doing some makeup right now. So that being said, let's go ahead and start this off. I'm gonna show you how to use Dinair makeup in the Temptu 2.0 system that comes with the SP40 airbrush gun. That is a top feed single action airbrush, just in case you're interested. And yeah, so let's get it on. The first thing I will go ahead and tell you about using Dinair water-based airbrush foundation or any of Dinair's foundations inside the Temptu 2.0 compressor or any higher capacity compressor is that there's a fair amount of lever control that is involved. So if you are a newbie, I definitely do not recommend that you go ahead and use the Dinair foundation or even thinner water-based formulas inside the Temptu 2.0 system or any higher capacity system. Higher capacity meaning like it's more powerful enough, excuse me, it is powerful enough. Sorry, I stumble over my words sometimes, but meaning it's powerful enough to push out silicone-based formulas. So yeah, takes a little bit of more control of your lever to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you'll end up just wasting product, or worse, overspraying on your client, which you will see in the finished product. I don't know if you've ever seen some airbrush faces where literally, like, airbrush makeup is not meant to look cakey on the skin, okay? The only way it could possibly look cakey on the skin is if the artist is overspraying, okay? Because the way it lays down on the skin, it's thinner, the application fills in. There are all these details and technical specs about airbrush foundation that it's not supposed to look cakey, especially in cameras or photographs. It definitely gives off a more natural finish or natural appearance in photographs than regular makeup. So if you're seeing pictures or videos where the airbrush makeup looks thicker, like it looks like you could scrape it off, like, you know, I'm not, all jokes aside, it looks thicker, then it could be that, you know, maybe the person or maybe you were overspraying. So to avoid that, you want to maintain your distance and you want to have an adequate level of lever control experience, okay? So yeah, I think that's about it. That's the only thing you really have to worry about, is the overspraying and then wasting the products. You know, airbrush makeup's not cheap no matter what brand you go to, so you definitely want to make sure that you're not wasting the makeup. And of course, you want your work to look good. So let's not overspray, girl, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. I'm gonna show you how to do that. I'm gonna show you how little you need to pull back on your lever when using the higher capacity compressors. So I'm gonna stop ranting now and we're just gonna go ahead and get into it. So like I said before, I have my SP40 airbrush, and I do love the little lever grips that Dinair sells. So I have that here, and I attach it to all my airbrushes. You know, they're universal. I mean, it's a lever. But yeah, it's a wonderful little attachment, and other airbrush brands do not offer accessories for their airbrush system. So occasionally I like to go ahead and order a few extra of the accessories Dinair offers, and if they are compatible with my system, I'll go ahead and use them across the board. So yeah, I have my 2.0 compressor, and it looks like this. Yes, the Temptu, yes. Okay, and then the front has a little dial on it like so. Now this dial is set all the way to the lowest setting As you can see, if you turn it this way, it goes all the way to the highest setting, that's 30 psi. There is absolutely no need to ever use your compressor at 30 psi when doing makeup or any kind of beauty application. You don't ever need it that high. The compressor does have that capacity, but it's not a working pressure to be applying to anybody's skin. So Temptu recommends when you're spraying out silicone-based airbrush makeup, there's a little notch here, but they recommend that it's about right here, and that pushes that out pretty smoothly. But for water-based formulas, especially thinner formulas like the Dinair formula, you want to make sure that you just turn your compressor all the way down, like so. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit of water to my airbrush here so you can go ahead and see just how lightly you have to pull back on the lever. And so I'm just going to go ahead and turn it on. So now that we have it on, I'm going to use the back. Hopefully you can see the spray. Yes, you can see it. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is just make sure that you're going really lightly on the lever. Now, compressors that work at a higher capacity, which meaning like the Temptu 2.0 compressor, doesn't start at 0. It starts at around, I want to say about 10 psi, okay? The psi just refers to the amount of air or the speed of the air that's going to be coming through the airbrush. Now the air carries the makeup through the front of the airbrush, so the thinner the makeup, the quicker it's going to get carried out with the air. So you want to make sure that you're really, really light on the lever when using thinner formulas, and I promise you, you won't waste if you pay attention to your lever control. So we're just going to go ahead and pull back lightly. And I don't know if you could see that, but there are little spurts of water that's coming out. That's where you want to be when you're applying your makeup with the thinner water-based formulas. So like the Dinair formula, you just want little spurts like so, and it can tell that you could see that coming around right here, but you just want little spurts like so. This is going to be your happy place when using the higher capacity pressures with the thinner water-based formulas, okay? So I'm going to get up closer so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, hopefully it'll focus there. And we just want light spurts just like that. Okay, very light. Rock the lever. Okay, if your airbrush is maintained and working properly, this light amount of pulling back on the lever will release product. The only way that it will not release product is if you are not properly maintaining your airbrush and there is a clog in your nozzle, okay? Or maybe your needle is dirty. There are many factors that can contribute to why an airbrush is not spraying properly, but those I find are the main ones. So make sure that you're maintaining and you're keeping your airbrush clean, and I promise you it will work any and every time you need it, girl. Okay, keep your stuff clean. All right, so that being said, light little spurts like this is going to be your happy place, and you're going to see me do this throughout my routine. This is what I mean by staying light on the lever and rocking the lever as well. This is what I mean. Rock it, girl, because you want as little amount of the makeup to be carried out with this high speed as you can get. I promise you that little amount is the right amount to go ahead and give you an adequate coverage. So you want it nice and soft like this, never like this. Never like this. You don't ever want to be spraying your makeup out like this, because there is a good probability at the end of your routine you're going to find out that you have thicker makeup on your face than what's necessary, and you've gone through a lot of products. So let's not do that. A good way to go ahead and practice is to use water, because water-based formulas, they're not as thin as water, but if you can master it with water, which is thinner than the Dinair Airbrush foundations, you can master it with the Dinair foundation. So definitely go ahead and practice with water if you don't have a practice shade. Dinair offers a practice shade, and I find that most people don't end up using it anyway, and it kind of just sits around. Utilize that practice shade, okay? Use it. Practice with your face, practice with your lever control, practice with your distance. It's there as a tool for you, so make sure you're utilizing it. So let's go ahead and just spray out the excess here. Yeah, look at that powder. All right, cool. Fine mist, everything is out. So let's go into the makeup. So I've already prepped my face. I just took all the dirt and oil off your skin. Dinair does not require that you use a primer, and I promise you, if you use a primer underneath Dinair, that is not a water-based primer, or even has silicones in it remotely, it's not going to hold up with your makeup. Your makeup is going to end up moving. It's going to be rubbing off. It'll really sacrifice the integrity of the makeup. So I recommend to you that you really just don't use anything underneath. Start with a fresh, clean face. Okay, if you want to use something, which I will be testing out some primer water to see how that does. But if you want to use something, I've gotten away with using even a setting spray beforehand. And then I also use Skin Prep Pro, and I have a video on that, which I will have linked in the description box below. But I do not recommend that for everyday use, and I do not recommend spraying that out through the airbrush. Use a cotton pad and a toner if you want to go ahead and apply it to the skin. And I recommend never using that on people who have dry skin or normal skin, because it will go ahead and dry their skin out more. If they are a combination, you only want to put it in the areas where the client is oily or where you're oily. And if they have oily skin, of course you want to put it in the areas where you get the most oil production. So for me, it's like right here, down the bridge of my nose. My forehead gets a lot of oil. My chin area right here, I tend to avoid this area here because this tends to have dry patches when I use it. So I don't put it there. But that's really the only places you need to apply it if you have oily skin like me, or all the places that I recommend you apply it, you know, because it's all my opinion at this point. So hopefully, you know, that's enough for you. All right, so let's get on to the makeup here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just go in. You know, actually, let's do a voiceover. Let's do a voiceover, it'll be quicker and easier. We can get through this. If there are any important details, I'll make sure to go ahead and let you know at the end. So we're gonna go ahead and switch over. All right, voiceover time. So I'm gonna start with Dinair Neutralize and Camouflage line. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the normal amount of drops that I would use on the day-to-day, which is 2 drops of shade Honey Beige, and then 2 drops of shade Vanilla, just to go ahead and lighten it up a little bit because I like that brightening effect. 4 drops in total. Gonna work for my whole face, girl. It's gonna cover the whole face. I did want to go ahead and touch on that I didn't touch on is back bubbling. You do not want to back bubble this makeup all the way to the top of the cup. You don't even want to back bubble it halfway. Like I said, the speed of the airflow is coming through the airbrush a lot faster than on the Dinair compressors, or the compressors that function at a lower PSI. So you really don't want to back bubble too much, because if you do, a lot of that product will end up sticking to the inside of the cup, and you'll end up having to apply more inside, essentially wasting makeup. So you definitely make sure that you're not back bubbling that high. To mix the product in these higher capacity airbrush systems, it really only requires the slightest tug back, get a nice little bubble. As soon as you see it nice and marbly in there, you're good to go. Okay, don't overdo it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take a small mirror and start to conceal my blemishes like so, starting with this guy here. I'm just going to make sure to follow my own rules and stay very light on the lever like so. And as you can see, it covered the blemish wonderfully, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to cover the rest of the blemishes on my face, like how I would normally do in my daily routine. Now, the key to applying airbrush makeup, especially when using higher capacity compressors, is not the absence of mistake, but rather acknowledging them and knowing how to troubleshoot to correct them for a beautiful end result, okay? So don't worry if you make a mistake. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Just keep on moving forward. Next, I'm going to contour taking dark almond, and here I'm just going to take about 2 drops of dark almond. This is usually more than enough to cover my full face when I'm using my Dinair compressor, or when I choose to use the Temptu compressor, depending on what the mood calls for. But I'm just going to go ahead and start at the temples, blending down to my cheekbone area like I normally do, and then continue to go and contour the rest of my face like so. Two drops is more than enough, not just for a shadow contour like I like, but also for a more bold contour as well. And this is what I mean. It's easy to overspray no matter how experienced that you are. The whole point is just acknowledging that it is a mistake and correcting it. Now I'm going to spray the excess on my hands so you can go ahead and see how much is left over after I'm already done applying it to the face. There is a ton left over from that 2 drops. I'm trying to give you a perspective so you can really understand how little product it takes to go ahead and apply a full face application, okay? This is what I mean. Those 2 drops contoured my whole face, and look how much is left over. I literally could have got away with 1 drop. You can see, even after I have contoured my skin to my liking, I know it's not as bold on camera, but this is how I like it in person. I don't like too bold of a contour, just to create a nice shadow. As you can see, there is a lot of excess left over, so I probably could have gotten away with just using 1 drop to contour my whole face. So this is what I mean by, if you're light on the lever, you will not waste product, and you definitely will not be a victim of overspray or make anybody else a victim of overspray. So definitely stay light on the lever. If you can master it with the Temptu 2.0 system, you can master it with the Dinair system. I mean, if you go from a higher pressure to a lower one, done deal. You should already be mastering it. If you're starting at a lower one, you definitely want to test the waters and practice a lot when you're going to a higher pressure. So let's continue on, shall we? Alright, so now for a blush, I'm taking Dinair Glamour Shade Dark Peach Pink, and usually for my blush, I just use one drop like so. Thing I wanted to touch on while I'm on the topic is making sure that you are not dropping the drops anywhere near the walls of your airbrush. You want to aim for the center where the needle is. That way the makeup falls where it's supposed to fall. If you drop it too close to the cup because you're not paying attention to the angle or you're trying to rush it a little bit, then you'll end up having more of the makeup sticking to the cup, which essentially it's going to make you think like one drop isn't enough when it really is. So get into the habit of trying to figure out which angle is the best angle to hold it at and which area is the best area to hold it over to make sure that you're getting that drop where it needs to go, okay? You don't want to waste the makeup like I said. So let's get back. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and test it out on my hand, make sure that the spray is right, everything looks good. And then I'm going to apply my blush to the cheekbones like so, blending it into that contour shade. Okay, it's looking good, looking good. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to layer up. And this is how I like my blush, yes. Now again, spraying the excess on my hand to show you that there's more than enough in one drop. See that? One drop, girl. So much wasted, so much wasted. The reason why I'm stopping right now, and I know I said I was probably going to stop in between certain things just to go ahead and make sure that I clarify and make things clear. When you are using a higher capacity airbrush, okay, and you're using a higher speed, which means a higher PSI, you know, higher speed, you have more air coming out the front end, and you're using water-based airbrush makeups, especially with Dinair airbrush makeup because Dinair sets on contact. If you're unfamiliar with Dinair, their makeup sets on contact. Anyways, if you are using water-based foundations set a lot faster than silicone-based foundations, which means you're going to have a fair amount of dry tip the longer you keep makeup in the cup without flushing it out. So what I recommend to you is if you're using water-based in a higher capacity system like I am, to make sure you at least flush with water in between colors if you can. It doesn't have to be in between every shade, maybe in between every other shade if you can, or every two shades. That will help you avoid dry tip. Now, if you don't want to be fiddling with the front of your airbrush, then definitely make sure you're flushing it with water because essentially you want to keep that nozzle and the front needle moist. If it's moist, no makeup can dry on it and it's not going to affect your spray. If it's not moist, the air in combination with the makeup can go ahead and build up on the needle, especially if you're working slower or you're not working as fast. So with the dry tip, all you have to do is take off the front portion here and then just go ahead and pinch off the needle like so. Just get everything off. I don't recommend using a Q-tip because Q-tips, they're not as tightly I guess spun, and a lot of the times the fibers will end up getting caught here, and then if you're not careful, those fibers can stay and that'll prevent you from having a smooth spray too. So don't use a Q-tip. Definitely just go ahead and pinch off the dry tip just with your nails like so. If your nails are like long or if you have done up nails like my nails are natural, just go ahead and take a cloth like this one here and then just go ahead and cover the needle and just pinch it off that way. Okay, just make sure you're not using a Q-tip, or you can even take a little brush too, a little synthetic one, and just kind of go around the needle to make sure you get rid of any dry tip. Whatever works for you, that's how you pinch off dry tip. Go ahead and apply the front cap back on and you should be good to go. So anytime you are noticing a little bit of lag with your airbrush, like you're having to do this a lot more, or you have to pull back a lot further than you normally would, stop what you're doing, pinch off dry tip, okay? Trust me, it'll help you in the long run prevent any overspraying or any hot spots applied to the skin. You do not want to ruin the beautiful makeup you're trying to create, okay, by creating a hot spot. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get back to the let's go ahead and get back to the visual, the demonstration. What are we calling this? The demonstration. Okay, now for the eyes, I'm starting in the transition with Dinair Glamour Shade Light Smoke. And usually for the transition crease area, I only use one drop because it's such a small area and I'm spraying so lightly, I don't want to use more and waste a lot. So I'm making sure to push the product down over the needle Yes, it is perfect and ready to go, so I'm just going to go ahead and apply it like so. Okay, and that's that. So let's go ahead and see the excess here off of that one drop. All that left over. One drop is more than enough. Next, I'm going to take dark brown once again, one drop. You don't need much. This is just to create some depth and dimension in the outer corner, outer V. Everything looks good. That's where I'm applying it, of course. And now I'm just going to go ahead and layer it on like so, staying really nice and light on my lever. That way I get a nice blend. If I need more, I can add more, but I can't take away. So make sure that you're building layers lightly to get the depth that you are looking for. All right, that's going to do it. So let's see the excess. Oh my gosh, so much, so much. Next, I'm going to take light bronze, and usually for the lid colors, I like to have some excess, so I'll take 2 drops of light bronze. And then I'll go ahead and apply that all over the lid like so. Now I'm just going to go ahead and continue to layer the shade up. Usually the lid color is going to be that pop of color to the lids, and most of the looks that I do, it is that concentrated color, you know, that shimmer that we all like, that pop. Then I'm going to use the excess to just bronze the rest of my face, and let's see what's left over off of that 2 drops. Okay, and that's covering my eyeshadow and bronzing my face. Still left over. So next it's onto foundation. So I'm going to be using the soft glow line and the extender. So first I like to start off with 4 drops of honey beige of the soft glow line. That's my base shade. Then I'll take 4 drops of honey beige extender, which will help my makeup adhere to my oily skin. Then I'll take 1 drop of nutmeg, depending on the time of the year. Usually in the winter it's about 1 drop. So a total of 9 drops. There are days where I use even less than that, okay? So just bear in mind here. So now I got a good nice marble mix, not back bubbling all the way up because we don't want to waste like I said before. And we're just going to go ahead and apply our foundation like so. Staying light, making sure to keep on moving to avoid any hot spots or concentration of the makeup in any one area. We want to have a nice even blend. Also, don't forget to apply to certain areas. Try to remember everything. And as for leftover, there's usually never any leftover because I will use it on my neck and chest also. Now for highlighter, I'm using Kohler Opalescent Highlighter Shine On You. And for highlighting, I like to use anywhere between 1 to 2 drops depending on how bold, but today I'm going to be using 2 drops, which is more than enough, of course, like you've seen before and as you're going to see right now. I'm just going to go ahead and add that pop to my cheekbones. Nice, good glow. And then I'm going to go ahead and take it up to the brow bone, tear ducts, bridge of the nose, and Cupid's bow. Yes, highlight on fleek. Look at that. Beautiful. Now let's see how much is left over. Like I said, this is why I say 1 to 2 drops, because 2 drops is way more than enough. I usually can get away with just using 1. Now for the brows, I'm using Kohler Eyebrow Shade Dark Smoke, and you're going to be amazed that it only takes 1 drop. And I will have excess over left after I do my both brows, okay? After I do both brows, you will see there will be excess left over, because 1 drop is more than enough if you spray correctly. Oh, Trouble in Paradise. I did not get it on the needle. Instead, it's coated the whole cup like you can see here. So, yeah, product's going to get wasted. So at this point, I would normally add a second drop over the needle just to keep it moving. But for the sake of showing you that it only takes 1 drop, I'm going to flush it out of my airbrush like so, nice and clean. And we going to start again, y'all. We going to start again. So now I'm taking Kohler Eyebrow Shade Dark Smoke. I'm going to be careful this time and apply 1 drop over the needle. Did I get it? Yes, I did. So we're gonna go ahead and keep on trucking and apply my brows using the brow stencil. This is the stencil size C, I believe. And we're just gonna fill them in like so. All right, beautifully filled. Let's see what is left over. Look at that. Look at that. Both brows and there's still product left over. Telling you, one drop more than enough. Now using jet black for my eyeliner, I'm just going to take one drop of jet black. Yes, that gives me a nice, good size lined eyeliner as well as a cat eye. So you're going to see that. But here I am noticing that it is a little bit shiny. Now, anytime you see the makeup come out looking watery, there's something wrong. Okay, this happens when there's water left in the cup and it saturates the makeup. This is no good. Do not spray this on your skin. So I'm just going to flush that out. And this motion kind of forces product down to the needle so it can be sprayed out properly. So nothing gets left over. Because we don't want water in there mixed with our makeup, girl. No water. So anytime you see any shine like that, you know that there's water or cleaner in with the makeup and you do not want that. So I'm going to go ahead and add my one drop again to show you that it only takes one drop. And we gonna get to moving after I give it another test to make sure. This is why we test out the spray. We got to make sure that everything's going smoothly before we get to our face here. So that's one drop. Test it on the hand. Let's see. It should spray dry. Okay. And yes, we have a nice, beautiful dry spray. So let's go ahead and complete our liner. I'm just going to do it like so, the way I've always done it. And that's all she wrote. Yes. Okay. So let's see if there are excess. There is, of course, excess because there's always excess because it takes so little product. And now this is the end of the routine, so it's time to clean your airbrush. Look at all that gunk. Yes, beautiful and clean. That's how you want to keep it, girl. Maintain that brush. So now that I have mascara on, I feel a little bit more comfortable. Anyways, so yes, like you just saw, I completed a full face of Dinair Airbrush makeup using minimal drops in the Temptu 2.0 compressor, the 2.0 compressor, excuse me. So as you can see, it's really easy to go ahead and use and utilize these water-based formulas, especially thinner formulas, in these higher capacity airbrush systems. So all you have to do is really control that lever, make sure you're maintaining the right distance, you know, really have a grasp of the fundamentals of applying airbrush makeup, and you'll succeed. You won't have to worry about overspraying or wasting any product. So, because I need to put up, I'm gonna go ahead and show you a close-up of my face so you can see what I did actually achieve with those minimal amounts of drops. And as you can see, all of this was all residual left over even after I already applied them to my face. So you really need such a small amount of Dinair Airbrush makeup to go ahead and complete a full face, no matter what system you're using. So if you are finding that you're using more Dinair Airbrush makeup, don't blame the makeup, because I promise you, most likely, you know, you're overspraying or you're adding too much. And I hate to say that because, you know, I don't like to point things out, you know, that's wrong with other people's technique, but take this as constructive criticism, okay? This is constructive. I want to help you be the best you in applying airbrush makeup, and I want to help you save money as well, because like I showed, you don't need that much of the Dinair makeup to go ahead and complete a full face like this. So before I go rambling on like I normally do, because I tend to do that all the time like I'm doing now, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see a close-up of my flawless finish. Now, I am happy with the end result, but for time's sake, I did not have enough time to actually really go in and cover some of the blemishes. So, of course, you're going to see some of it through the makeup here. But like I said, that's easily correctable with a little bit more added time. All right, so take your time, do it right. You got the tools. Let's get it done. Okay, so now that you've seen a close-up, you know this is what you could get. This is the makeup that I do on the daily. So this is my everyday makeup. If I wanted to go a little bit more full-on glam to get that full beat flawless, I will use more of the concealer and really take my time with the concealer shades, which is the neutralizer line from Dinair. Or, you know, if you don't like to airbrush your concealer, go in with a cream concealer. If you're using water-based though, you need to have a water-based concealer. Otherwise, the makeup will not stick to it and it's going to be a hot mess. Okay, don't blame the makeup. You really need to learn how to use the products properly. And I'm telling you, water-based airbrush makeup requires a cream concealer if you're going to use it that is also water-based. Okay, so back to the real topic here. If I was wanting to get that full beat, I would just go ahead and add maybe 4 more drops of my foundation. So I would use a total of 12 drops in total of everything. So that's 11 drops of the lighter shades, including the foundation extender, which I've been using and loving. Have a video on that coming soon. And then the 1 drop that I add of the tanner shade that I use. Another tip or tidbit that I could give you or leave you with is if the Temptu 2.0 system is your only system, or if you have another higher capacity system that is your only system and you are not invested or going to invest in a Dinair system, I do recommend that you get an airbrush for the different mediums that you're going to be using. That means 1 airbrush for silicone base, 1 airbrush for water base. If you want, you can mix between the silicone base and the alcohol base, because that I find doesn't have such a conflicting problem as using 1 airbrush for both silicone and water base does. So I definitely recommend using separate airbrushes for that, just because it's less of a headache. For those of you who are familiar with silicone based formulas, you know it takes a little bit more elbow grease to go ahead and clean that silicone based makeup out of the airbrush as opposed to water based, which is a lot simpler. If you cannot get another airbrush at this point and you want to try to make it work, definitely can make it work just using the 1 and using the 2 different types of formula. What you want to do in between though is take 99% isopropyl alcohol and spray it through to remove any residue of any of the silicone based makeup and silicone based cleaner. So the way to transition, if you've used silicone-based makeup, take silicone-based cleaner through the airbrush, make sure it's all out, and then go in. I like to put my alcohol in a spray bottle because I find it's easier to distribute that way. Of course, I'm not spraying it out in the open. I'm in real tight because you don't want to be inhaling this, of course. But I like to put it in a spray bottle and just kind of spritz it in the cup just so it'll run down the walls of the cup and really get all of that silicone-based product out before I go in with water-based. So that is an option for you if you cannot get a second airbrush, but I really recommend, to save yourself a headache, get yourself a second airbrush and a quick disconnect if you can. That way you can just pop it off and pop it on and you're good to go. So yeah, with that being said, that ends the demo and of course the intro on how to really work with a water-based formulas or thinner airbrush makeup formulas in a higher capacity compressor. Now I know the question is going to come up, can you use the Temptu Air and the AirPod Pro with Dinair makeup or with thinner water-based formulas? And for that, I am going to show you a demonstration spraying it on paper, because I really want you to see. It's not enough that I'm going to tell you that it's really not the best idea to use foundations or makeup like Dinair or any other water-based that's on the thinner side. Thinner than silicone-based formulas, of course, because it's just not going to give you a very smooth spray. And I'm going to show you in a minute exactly what I mean by that. And then, of course, when you're using thicker water-based formulas, like the water-based formula that Temptu offers, it is a thicker consistency, so it should spray a lot smoother out of the Temptu Air and the AirPod Pro. Honestly, I haven't done it, so you and me, we're gonna find out together, girl. We're gonna find out together if the thicker formula works, the thicker water-based formula works to spray smoothly out of the Temptu Air and the AirPod Pro. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right into that. All right, time to check out spray patterns. So here I'm taking my Temptu Air like so. I'm gonna pop off the top. Then I'm going to be adding a few drops of Dinair makeup like so. Here I'm using the Color Radiance line in the shade Honey Beige because that's my shade. So we got 3 drops of the inner well right over the needle. You got to place it in the right spot as well. And I'm going to go ahead and hold the back button on to turn it on. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how this baby sprays. So without further ado, let's get it on. Alright, now it's Temptu 2.0 time with SP40 Airbrush. So here we go. I'm going to take the same makeup and apply 3 drops to the cup like so. Over the needle. Make sure you get it over the needle. Test it out. Make sure it's spraying right. And then we gonna get to spraying. Just check out this spray pattern and you decide for yourself which one you think looks better. Yes, there is makeup coming out, okay? That's how fine a mist that this airbrush gives, okay? If you stay light on that lever, you get a nice fine mist. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. So I'm going to take another drop just so we can do that little concentrated drop in the center of this page here. That way you can go ahead and see the spray pattern. Of course, it's nice and smooth. And that's all she wrote. That is all she wrote. So this is a close-up of the Dinair water-based formula sprayed with the Temptu Air at speed setting number 3. Very pixelated. And then this is a close-up of the Dinair water-based formula sprayed in the 2.0 compressor with a dial set at 9 o'clock, which is the lowest setting on the Temptu compressor. And this is a close-up, so you can really go ahead and see the difference in pixel size. Now, just because I know someone is going to be like, well, what about if you sprayed it at a lower pressure? Well, I'm going to show you what the spray pattern looks like when you spray it at setting 1 and setting 2. So go ahead and sit tight and you will see the spray pattern. Yeah. Alright, so here you have it. Alright, so the first image we're going to zoom in on here is at speed setting 1. Extremely pixelated. Speed setting number 2. A little bit better, but still pretty pixelated. And at speed setting 3, which I think is the best as far as what you're going to get spraying this out with the Temptu Air. So now, because we want to test a thicker water-based formula, we're going to go in with the Temptu Aqua foundation. It is discontinued, so sorry you can't pick this up. But this is just to show what the spray pattern would be like with a thicker water-based formula. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. Same procedure, speed setting 3 to start it off. And we're just going to go ahead and fill in the circle here. Nice and light on the lever, rocking it from time to time. I got to force product down into the well there just to make sure that it starts coming out the front because this is a very thick formula. Okay, and as you can see, pretty pixelated. So we're going to go ahead and add another drop in there. And we're going to change the speed setting, and I'm going to show you on all of the settings because, you know, let's make a habit of it. Let's just test it all so you can see it all. Speed setting number 2 now. Here we go. Alright, now taking the Temptu SP40 Airbrush attached to the 2.0 system, we're going to go ahead and drop 3 drops into this well. There we go. And then we gon' get to spraying now too. Now yes, there is product coming out. It is that fine when you are light on the lever. You'll start to see it build as I continue to go on. Watch the white disappear. There you go. Now you see it. Okay, now I did start to fiddle a little bit with the dial just because I felt like I can get a smoother spray. So I turned it up to 12 o'clock on the 2.0 compressor, which 9 o'clock is the starting point. So 12 o'clock would be about a quarter ways away. And this is the spray I'm getting. Still very fine in comparison to the Temptu Air. Now I'm going to go ahead and fiddle with the air speeds again and just go ahead and switch it up and add some sprays on the side, and we'll go ahead and discuss the results in the next frame. Okay, so testing out the variations, I found that I got a smoother spray using a higher pressure. So I'm just going to go back to that center dot there, and I'm going to apply some more pigment there
using my dial set at 3 o'clock just because I found that that's the best spray for it. That's also the same position of your dial when you are spraying out silicone based formula. And there's still so much makeup left in the cup, okay? All of this, use such little amount, okay? Now this is a close-up view, of course. This is the main frame here. And here the dial was set at 9 o'clock and then increased to 3 o'clock, and it's still extremely fine. Here we have the dial set at 3 o'clock, which I think is the best setting. And then here we have the dial set at 12 o'clock, which is a pretty decent setting, if I must say so. So of course here, this is the close-up of the water-based formula in the Temptu Air. This is at speed setting 3. So it's finer than speed setting 1, but still pretty pixelated. Speed setting 1 is super pixelated, of course. And then speed setting 2 is pretty pixelated, if I must say so myself. So because I know somebody's going to be like, oh, it's the AirPod. Well, no, it's not the AirPod. I'm going to show you that it's not by using the Hydrolock formula. I did deep clean my AirPod Pro by running 99% isopropyl alcohol through it. So it is nice and deep cleaned and ready to go. So I'm going to add 4 drops of the Temptu Hydrolock formula, which is a silicone based formula. Turn it on to speed setting 3. That's the recommended setting. And then I'm going to go ahead and spray, staying light on the lever the exact same way that I've been spraying with the water-based formulas. And yes, there is product coming out. Watch the white disappear. You will start to see it build. There is product coming out. That is how fine the spray is when you are using silicone-based formulas in the Temptu AirPod Pro. So yes, you know what this means. You know that the results show it, that it's not the AirPod Pro, but rather the formula being pushed through the AirPod Pro.
Okay, so you know what? I still have my ears on. Jesus. Christiane. Okay. So let's take those off. Yes, this feels more natural. All right, so as you just saw, the spray pattern is quite different on the Temptu Air than the Temptu 2.0 system. So if you're looking to use water-based, like you just saw in the visual representation, water-based does not spray out very smoothly or in fine enough pixels to give like a haze effect that you normally see with airbrush makeup or airbrush foundations when sprayed out of the Temptu AirPod Pro. So yeah, you saw it. I did 2 examples, one using Dinair airbrush makeup, which is a thinner water-based consistency, and the other using Temptu Aqualine, which is a water-based airbrush makeup that Temptu offers, or that they offered. Of course, it's being discontinued, but still, that's their water-based formula. It is on the thicker side, so we wanted to go ahead and test that out. And you got to see that the spray is quite different in comparison to the spray with the 2.0 system and SP40 airbrush. So, I mean, of course I've inserted pictures. I don't think I need to zoom in because I'm not sure how well my zoom will go ahead and show you the results. But this is using the Temptu AirPod Pro. You can see those dots even as far away as you are here. And then this is using the Temptu 2.0 system, which you can see is a much finer spray. Okay, this is a little close up here so I can show you like the actual dotted pattern there. And of course, I have images that I've inserted of all of these as well. So if you want to go ahead and rewind. But this is even using the Temptu Aqua Foundation. This is the Temptu AirPod Pro. Once again, you can see more denser pixels here as opposed to the 2.0 system with the SP40 airbrush. It's a nice, fine, smooth spray. Now, of course, I knew that people were going to be like, oh, well, it's not water-based, it's the Temptu AirPod Pro. No, it is not the Temptu AirPod Pro, and that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and sprayed the Temptu Hydrolock formula, which is their silicone-based formula, using the Temptu AirPod Pro to show you that it's not the AirPod, but rather the formula that's being sprayed out of it. Because as you can see, the pixels are nice and fine here, and this was done with the Temptu Air. Like I said, if you need to go ahead and rewind because I have pictures and of course the actual demo prior to this frame here. So if you need to rewind, go ahead and rewind. But as you can see, the Hydrolock foundation sprayed out perfectly fine in a beautiful mist. using the Temptu AirPod Pro. So honestly, I've deduced from my tests here that it's not so much the AirPod Pro, but the formula sprayed out. So if you really want to know if you can use water-based formulas in the Temptu AirPod Pro and the Temptu Air system, honestly, you can use it. Obviously, it will spray out. But understand that if you use it, the pixels are going to be a lot larger. So you're going to see those dots on the skin. Even with the thicker Temptu formula, the Temptu water-based formula, the pixels were still equally large. So water-based formulas, I do not recommend using them in the Temptu Air and AirPod Pro. You're just not going to get a fine enough mist to be satisfied with the overall end result. As far as silicone-based applications and Hydrolock foundation, it works beautifully. Definitely recommend sticking to silicone base when you are using the Temptu Air and AirPod Pro. So hopefully that answers the question on the questions that you've had. This whole video is such a long video, I know, but trust me, the information is worthwhile, and I really want to give you an insight so you can make an adequate decision. One, if you want to invest in this system, or if you want to invest in the 2.0 system. Maybe you decide you don't need a larger system and you want to invest in a system that just is water-based, and you can invest in the Dinair system. But the whole point of this video and all the little examples that I put in it is to really help you understand and get a visual and show you that what I say is not just my opinion, but I've actually tested these things out, and I want you to see that. So that being said, hopefully this video was insightful for you. If you still have any questions, concerns, or comments, please put them in the comment box below. I would be more than happy to go ahead and help you and answer your questions if I can. Once again, if you want to get more in-depth information on the equipment, definitely contact customer service. That's Temptu's customer service. You can find their information at temptu.com or temptupro.com. Of course, everything that I do here on my channel is my own opinion. It's out of my own experience and my use of the products, as well as my research behind the techniques to make sure that I'm doing it properly, of course, for you guys, because we want the most accurate representation of the equipment and the makeup that we can get, and that's what I hope to give you guys here on my channel. So, like I said, if you're still left with questions or concerns, put them in the comment box below. In the description box, I'll have more details in there. I usually like to throw a little tidbits for you in the description box below, so make sure you go ahead and check that out. And yeah, if this video was entertaining for you, or if you found it even remotely helpful, which I hope you found it very helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Liking the videos really helps me a ton. And then if you are not subscribed to my channel, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe. I would love for you to join my Airbrush family here. And if you are subscribed, or you choose to subscribe today, which I hope you do, don't forget to hit that little bell icon right next to the subscribe button, and that will give you the quickest updates anytime I upload a video. And we have lots to come to the channel, of course. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next one. Bye!